So the last class, so we know about what are the different ways we can store the data with respect to our mobile applications. Whether you wish to share your store your information in a local storage devices or external storage, like it may be a memory card, or it may be some USB connected storage devices or anything like that. Other than that, we have one more option as we can store uh, can even store the information in the form of structured way, that is through in the form of databases. Structured means you can fix with some structures of reading or inserting the information into your storage spaces. And one more is a content provider, you can store it like through files and all files, databases, or even documents. It may be anything like video or whatever it is. One more way is you can store the same thing either in structured or unstructured way, but it is not in either local or in a external storage, but it is in a cloud storage, like connecting to a server and storing your information in the server. Whenever you need, you just access that information through internet. That's how you can do it. One more is Google is providing one more services that can also you can utilize in order to store information. That is, we all know that how we can do that. In the last class, we know about how we can store the information in a local storage or external storage in the form of shared preferences. Like whenever you want to do some settings and all. 1 minute. Sorry. So that's how you know how we can use some of the information you want to share. That is, when you have a setting information you want to pertain in your application, and also like these are some primitive information where you want to utilize with respect to your mobile settings as well as your application where we have options of filling some forms and all, and we want to retain the information even though application go back or whatever it is. So in that case, we know how we can do storing of this information using shared preferences. Also, same with the shared preferences, we can also apply through the without using the shared preferences classes. Also, we can set it to in the form of resources. That is, app setting resources. We also come across in the last class how we can do the using some good examples. So today, what we do is we are going to learn. So we are going to learn how we can do storing of information by utilizing the help of database that is structured, how we can store the information in the form of structured data. Normally, whenever we say structured data, normally we have an option of storing the same information in the form of database. So that's what we are going to learn today. There is one DBMS, we normally call it as DBMS. Why means DBMS helps the information to be stored in the form of structured manner. It may be anyway. It may be you can think in terms of object things or you can think in terms of table information. You can store any forums. You can store the information in the form of table also. It represents a structured manner, right? Like that, if you want to store the information as a class and object, as we are doing in Java programming, that is also a structured manner. When you wish to store the information in the form of key and value pairs and without the structure, then that is an unstructured. Normally, we used to do in the form of XML, JSON, etc. Right. Today, what we do is we are going to learn how we can store the information in the form of structured manner, maybe within your local storage, or you can store the same information in a server where you can put your database, and whenever you need to access, you just get a connection to your server through internet, and you start process your information, whether maybe we have a manipulation operation, we have a retrieval operation, we have a creation operation. There are numerous ways you can do it. Okay, so fine. Let's start with the actual syllabus. Just okay. So, so today we are going to learn one good DBMS. There are multiple DBMSs are there in the market. So the best and the easiest way you can store information in your local storage is in the form of SQLite. Normally we call it as SQLite database management system. So why it is very easy means you are provided with good libraries in order to manipulate your data, retrieval information, and also for creation of the structured template. So for all the purpose, we have provided with different libraries that is provided with Android inbuilt. So it's a very easy way you can store and manipulate your information, and also you can do the retrieval operation. Fine, you can do retrieval operation, right? So naturally, it is a bit difficult for you to understand what exactly database means. Before we move on to that, I want to discuss about some basic concepts with respect to database management system and databases. Normally, you can store the information in there are numerous ways you can store the information. You just collect the information. You go on writing in your book. There is also one way of storing information. If you want to save the information, you can open some word editor and you can go on typing some information. And whenever you say, there is also a part of processing your information and saving your information in some particular storage devices, right? So like what we call that type of things, normally we call it as a file processing. We come across in the previous class how we can do process of files. Normally, so we have a different types of files we can save it. So normally, whenever we are dealing with file processing, there is no something called structured thing, right? You simply go on adding information one after another. So we are not going to maintain any information in the form of some structure. Structure, you can think structure in the form of table. Okay, every tables will have table headings and table rows and table columns, right? Rows information always filled based on the column information, right? So suppose like if I want to store the information of a student, normally if I open some notepad, so I can go on adding the information like student number one, USN1, USN equals to 1, name equals to ABC, and age equals to 21. So in file, normally we do add the information like this: USN equals to 2, name equals to BCD, and the age equals to 22. Normally, we used to do add information like this, right? Suppose if I want to save the same information in a structured man, how can I think that I can still save this information in the form of structure, right? What I do is I'll just create my table. So better thing is WordPad. I will open WordPad. Yeah, what I do is I'm going to create some table here. So I don't have an option to create table. Better wait. Okay, I have a bar. So what I do is I'm going to create one table. So it consists of 3 columns and multiple rows. Okay, fine. Assume that I have a three column and multiple rows. So I have a 3 column and multiple rows. Fine. So normally whenever I want to store some data, so table always have uh, table structure, right? So what I'm doing is I'm going to store student info. So it is a table name. And normally the first thing represent USN and the second thing represent what? Name, and the third column represent age. Now I'm gone filling the information. For example, USN1 name is ABC and age is 21. Like that, USN2 name is BCD and age is 22. So if we go on filling the information, we can store the information like this one also or like this one also. Here I don't have any structure to store the information. I'm go on filling the information one after another, right? But the same thing is not true. Here I have some structure. My representation is in the form of table. So this is how we call it as a database. Normally database we can define like this. It is a collection of data. So normally we cannot say directly collection of data. There is always have some relationship between each field in this data, right? So that's why we call it as collection of relative data. Whenever anybody asks you any question, related to database, like what is the database, you just tell them the with simple answer, like it is a collection of related data. See, name is related to student information, USN is related to student information, age is related to see, I cannot add 59 or 57 simply who is not a student, who don't have USN, and who don't have even though he may have a name, but he is not a student of the particular college. I cannot add the information simply here. Okay, so it means that each and every field here, every data are related to student information. That's why we can call it as a collection of relative data. So that is what nothing but databases are. Okay, but in file it is not like that. You can store the relative data, or you can store any other data. There is no that relationship exists between one data and another data. It's just like unstructured data. Hello. ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ತಗೋತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ತಡಿಯಪ್ಪ, ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ತಗೋತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ನಾನು. ಒಂದು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಬಿಡಿ. Am I audible, right? Am I audible? Am I audible? Anybody answer me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So,
Yes, sir.
as I told that, so you can store the collection of relative data, then we call it as a database. So so how can I store the same information in my computer, right? So I can store this relation data in the textbook or in a notebook. Then it is not a. I don't need any software. Right? I simply go on writing my information in the form of table structure. But the same thing, I want to store the information in a computer means I needed some software. Suppose, see, I'm entering this information in a table format. I need what? Microsoft Word. I'm entering the same information in an unstructured manner. I need what? Notepad, right? So the same thing, if I want to store the information in the form of database, I need a software. That software normally we call it as, so that software we call it as database management system. What is that? Database management. So you may heard about this. So normally Yes, students, which will call it as DBMS. Okay. So DBMS is nothing but it is a software. It is a what? It is a software. So for what purpose we are using? In order to store the information in the form of database. Okay. So not only create the data in the form of database, in order to manipulate the data in the form of database, in order to retrieve the database, in order to manage the database. So for all purpose, we are going to use DBMS. Now we can easily define it. DBMS is nothing but it is a software used to create the database, manipulate the database, retrieve the information from the database, and manage the database. Management, it may be like security and other permissions and other. There are other ways you can do it. And also we have something called transaction processing. Okay. For all purpose, we need a software. That software is nothing but DBMS. Okay. That's what we have so many examples with respect to DBMS. Some of them, like you may have heard about Oracle, you may have heard about MySQL, you may have heard about SQL Server, you may have heard about PostgreSQL. Okay. Next, you may have heard about SQLite. You may have heard about MS Access. And numerous softwares are available in the market. Okay, like DB2. Numerous. Okay, numerous softwares are. These are all we call it as a these are all we will call it as a relative database management system. So normally we call it as a RDBMS instead of DBMS. We'll call it the same thing. If I store in the form of class like this one, the student information class student so then first one is what integer USN next string name next int age. If I close this, then it is also a structured way of storing the information. This thing also we may call it as a database. If any software we are using in order to store the information in the form of this one class and object related thing, then we call it as an object oriented database. There are some softwares like Oracle and SQL Server, even they support this way of representation or structure. So, since these are all heavy loaded software and it needs some good server like instances in order to process the data. So, it is not the best way you can create software in your local mobile local storage and process the data using one of these instances like DBMS. So for that you need what suppose if you want to create your own database that should be reside in your mobile phone storage and you want to process the information, then you need some lightweight DBMS, right? So SQLite is somewhat lightweight DBMS, which provides a lot of libraries in order to what creation of this database, manipulation of the database, even retrieval of the database. There are multiple ways. Okay, you can multiple operations you can do with databases. So you may have about so in this world we have lot of applications available, right? So maybe you think in terms of YouTube, maybe you think in terms of Facebook, and also you think in terms of Flipkart, Amazon. Do you know which DBMS they are using in order to store their information in the form of structure, in the structured manner? Can you tell me which one is the most frequently and highly using software that is DBMS in the market? So maximum in terms of ERPs like enterprise resource planning softwares, they used to work with this Oracle software as well as SQL software. So whenever you may have a application with desktop or some cloud application where the application is developed based on Java or some .NET, then you may find Oracle. So if purely ASP.NET application has developed, then you may find that their backend is always SQL Server. Normally, we call database as a backend in our any software. So front end is what the user interface you are going to see that represents the front end, and backend means it is a data, and you need some server programming in order to bring this data from the backend to the front end, that is to the user interface. Then that thing we normally call it as a server techniques. Okay, so if the server technique is Java or .NET, normally your backend should be Oracle. So if it is purely .NET and based on ASP or something like that, then it's a purely SQL server. So if your backend, other than that, it may be Python, it may be PHP, even it may be Java, even it may be .NET. Okay. So the maximum DBMS which is available in the market as a backend is what? MySQL. So do you know who is the owner of this MySQL software? Which company owns MySQL? Yes. Am I audible, right? Can you tell me? Because you may have read about a lot of news, and also, so there is, all of you know which company owns this MySQL. Okay, I'll answer. You won't answer any. So the MySQL also owned by a company called Oracle. Okay, Oracle owns Oracle database management system as well as the very famous Java. Java belongs to Oracle, and even MySQL also belongs to Oracle. Okay. So even if you think in terms of Facebook, YouTube, Flipkart, Amazon, whatever it is, okay, their backend is always their backend is MySQL only. Even it may be Mintra, whatever the famous applications are there in the market presently, their backends are all made up of MySQL. So if you want to store your information in the form of MySQL, then you must have some server instances. It is better to create separate server instances because your mobiles are comes with some less intensive processing things, right? So for that case, what we do is we'll put our backend in a separate location, and we'll get connected to that location, and we'll get the data using any one of our processing server processing thing. In our case, in mobile application, our server processing thing is purely Java. Java will take care of connecting to the database and get the data from the thing and start working. So today what we do is we will study about SQLite Premier, that is SQLite DBMS, what exactly that will do, how we can use that SQLite DBMS in order to in order to store our information in the form of structured manner, that is DBMS. So one thing I want just forgot it. We have a we know what exactly database, and also we know what exactly DBMS is. And still, if you just have a software and if you have a database structure, is it possible to create the database? No, you need to learn some programming language, right, in order to create the database, in order to store the information into the database, in order to retrieve the information, in order to process some different transaction. You need to learn some programming language. So that programming language, in order to process all types of information of your database, you need to learn a SQL or SQL. So normally we will pronounce it as SQL. Okay. So SQL is nothing but structured query language. What is that? It's a structured query language. This is the programming language we are going to use in order to create a database, manipulate the database. Manipulation is either inserting information or deleting information or updating information, existing information, or retrieve the information, because I want to know what's the name of the USN one. So it means I am doing retrieval. I'm just querying the database that I want to know what is the name of the USN one, what is the age of USN one. So if you want to do such type of operation, please you need to learn about SQL in order to do retrieve the information from the database. Why you are storing information? Whenever you need to know the information, then you can query the database so that you can be able to understand what is the perfect value, right? For that purpose, you need what? You need to learn about one programming language, SQL, correct? So let us come to this. So you know what is database in general. It is nothing but it is a collection of relative data. That's all. Okay. It's a collection of relative data. Means if you want to store your information in a structured manner, that is nothing but a database. So what is SQL databases in particularly? So it means that if you want to do any sort of operations, maybe like creation, manipulations, or even retrieval, whatever it is, you need to learn about one query. If you want to store your information in the form of table, as I'm telling, in the form of table or object, of course, these databases are normally based on SQL databases. So we call RDBMS, like the Relative Database Management System, like that. Okay. So that sort of databases normally we call it as SQL databases in particular. And you know what about SQL query language? It's a programming language. So you all know that what exactly SQL database is. Right? Already, the another way you can call SQL databases are RDBMS, that is Relative Database Management System. Okay. So these databases normally stores your information in the form of tables that consists of rows and columns. I already explained this, and each field represents the collective information and collective information. Okay, that is what we call it as a field is nothing but it's an intersection of row and column. Say, so each particular part we call it as a field. Okay, so normally row information we call it as a field. So entire row information, not only single row with respect to column, entire row information we call it as a field, and we have always the interaction between column and a row. This is nothing but a field. So field contains normally data or references of others. Okay, rows are identified by unique IDs and column names are unique per table. See, so normally there is one more thing. So every row is always unique. Okay, we cannot do redundancy. For example, if I add like this, there is no meaning, right? If you want to store the information repeatedly, there is no meaning. Again, there is no advantages of having storing this information in a structure, right? So the database, one of the important property of database or characteristic is it does not allow any redundant data to be stored in your databases. So that's why every row should be unique. So how we can enforce this uniqueness? There is something called primary key in database management system. So what it will do is it will consider any one of this column as a unique key column. So for that column, you must always insert the values that is always unique values. Okay, it cannot allow the redundancy. If I suppose if my USN is what I call USN as a unique thing, then I cannot insert this one again here. Our DBMS does not allow of inserting the redundant data for this particular column. If you have such an operation, means our information always, we don't have redundant data stored again and again here. It is always each field represents the unique values. That's how you can enforce that particular part using a primary keys. Okay. So as I told that, so this is you can store the information in the form of tables. Okay. So as already told that you can implement SQL database engine in our Android Studio by utilizing some of the software libraries available. So that too we are going to use one of the good DBMS. As I told the DBMS, what is the DBMS? This is called SQLite DBMS. So why we are using SQLite? Means it is in self-console. No, means as I told that it is a very lightweight and you won't need any server backend in order to store the information. It is simply like you just go on developing your application. In backend, it go on managing how the data has to be stored and everything is taken care by the SQLite, right? You don't think in terms of database here. You just writing application in the form of how you done in your previous case. You just go on doing all the things similar like the previous cases. That's how it is provided a lot of software libraries in order to process that. And also you can do a lot of transactions related things. I will explain what exactly is transactions. So assume if you go to ATM, you just put your, you know that your entire bank information is stored by every bank in the form of database. This is true. Okay. They may have using some Infosys software or some Oracle software. Each bank. Okay. So like FlexiCube and other softwares they are using. Okay. So each and every information of each account holders are stored in the form of database. Okay, the majority of this type of applications, they are not exactly storing your information in an unstructured manner. That is completely unstructured information is only for business processing. Okay, for daily day-to-day transaction of information, The only way you can store your information is in the form of databases. Normally, we call it as an OLTP, online transaction processing. Okay, that is completely an advanced topic that may disturb you. I don't want to explain those advanced topics. You think whatever the day-to-day operations are like, it may be a Facebook, it may be a Flipkart. Like I am going to book some items. I want to purchase some items, or you go to ATM and you do take some cash from the ATM, or if you go on add some cash to your bank, or if you just go to book my show and if you book some movie ticket, these are all we call it as a day-to-day transaction, right? So, what exactly is transaction represents? See, you have an account. Assume you have an account. You share your ATM card to your friend, and you also doing transaction in your mobile. There are two ways you are doing transaction with respect to your account. Assume, okay, like so, I have 1,000 rupees balance in my account, and I have a friend A, and myself is M. Okay, so what I do is into my friend, I have given my ATM card. Okay, my friends have ATM card, and I am doing transaction through my mobile. Okay, now the time is 10:20. Okay, so now the time is what? 11:21, right? So now what happened? My friend now he went to ATM at 11:21, and he tried to uh, debit debit 500 rupees. Okay, debit 500 rupees, and myself also doing some mobile transaction. I'm myself also doing some mobile transaction. What I am doing is I'm just crediting 1,000 rupees, 1,000 rupees at the same time. Assume at the same time. Now you tell me if uh, both are represents operations. Okay, different operation. Here I am doing debiting operation with respect to this account, which consists of 1,000 as a balance. I'm here doing crediting operations. Okay, I'm just adding 1,000 rupees into this bank account, and normally operations transactions are nothing but these are the operations. Okay, individual operations. Okay, so normally it work with respect to a database. Okay, we have a single logic unit here, that is my account, and I am doing multiple operation to that logic unit, that is my account. What are the multiple operation I'm doing? One is I'm debiting in money, that is one operation. I'm crediting money, that is another operation. So these operations are nothing but these are the transaction that is applied to a single logic unit, that is called this account. Okay, and we may have a sequence of operation. After this debit, I may have even uh, debit some amount like that. These are all sequence of operations. So that is what transaction is. Why it is important? So why it is a transaction must be always, it should be a consistent enough. So why we have to think consistent enough? If you store your information in a database, and we may have a multiple transaction, maybe insertion, maybe updation, maybe deletion, maybe any different operations if you are gone doing, like it may be like think in terms of book my show. If you want to book a movie ticket and it consists of only one seat, and three members are trying to access that seat, and only one person can book that seat, right? So how it is possible? How that software has maintained such a way that the seat will be only allocated to one person? Even though if I do debit at the same time and credit at the same time, still my account balance always available in a consistent state, right? If I debit 500 rupees, what happens? Initially 1,000 rupees is there, now it will be 500, right? Okay, if I have added 1,000 rupees, means the final amount should be always 1,500. Okay, if we don't maintain the transaction perfectly, what happens? If just I will add what 500 rupees, I will debit what the 500 rupees. Meantime, I'm added even 1,000 rupees also. So for him, the status shows rupees 2,000. For him, the status shows what? If we don't maintain perfectly, for him, the status shows what? 500. That's what happens. So how can you maintain this thing? So that is how transaction comes here.
A transaction already explained. It is a sequence of operation, maybe credit or debit or whatever it is, a booking ticket, whatever it is, for a single logical unit of work. How we can how we can say that the transaction is a perfect if I do multiple operations at the same time, and how can you say that transaction is successfully completed? So for that purpose, we have to maintain four properties. What are those properties? One is atomicity, consistency, isolation, durability. We normally call it as an acid property. So what exactly atomicity means? See, as I told that if I go to an ATM, okay, so I'm just insert my information card and I want to debit 500 rupees. Initially it was 1000 rupees. Okay, so suddenly some network error happens. Assume some network error happens. So it is showing that the amount is debited before amount come from the machine. Some network error happens. Or when you are doing your transaction in your mobile, suddenly network goes off. So when it is debiting the amount, suddenly network goes up. If in that case, what atomicity represents is your transaction must be either completed successfully or completely delete your transaction and start again working with from the scratch. That is what atomicity does. Okay. So meanwhile, what is consistency? Whenever, as I told that, if even power goes also or power comes also, its successful transaction is one. Always it is moved from one consistent state to another consistent state. If I do this two operations parallelly, I'm not doing in sequence. Okay, parallelly, if I do this operation parallelly also, always the first initial consistent should be 1000 and final consistent should be 1500. So every completion of transaction always moves from one consistent state to another consistent state. It should not be end with 500 or it should not be end with 2000. That is what consistency represents. Okay, and what is isolation? Yes, I told that even my friend is also trying to get an information from the debiting in, money from the ATM. At the same time, even I am also doing some transaction into my account, right? My friend is also doing transaction to my account. I am also doing transaction to my account. So isolation represents means even though any number of operations with respect to a particular transaction that is running in parallelly, one operation should be always isolated with the another operation. I need not to bother whether at the same time my friend is also debiting that card. Okay, my operation should always isolate to me, and my friend operation is always isolate to him. That is what isolation represents. When you and durability means, as I told that once you complete the operation, all the operation, your final state should be perfect completed transaction. That is what durable represents. So a complete successful transaction always happens if it process all these four properties. Normally we call it as acid properties. Atomicity, consistency. It is an interview question that make asked by the interviews, because every application you think in terms of Facebook, you think in terms of Book My Show, Flipkart, Amazon, whatever it is, their final task is they are maintaining atomicity asset properties. Even though you know how to create a database, you should also aware how to maintain those four properties with respect to transaction. That is what DBMS will do. Okay, so as I told that. Okay. So, as I told that even whatever the situation, it may be program crash, operating system crash, power failure, whatever it is single transaction. If I'm doing, it is always end with a successful completion. Whatever the nothing. Otherwise, you just stop it. You start from the scratch. That is what our asset properties does. As nothing but atomicity, do completely or don't do any modification, just start from initial case. Consistency, if it is completed, then you check the data is moved from one consistent state to another consistent. Isolation, whatever there may be multiple operations are running at the same time in parallel, each individual operation should always isolated from each other. That is what isolation. So what durability? Once completed, transaction is completed, it effect should be always permanently in the place of system. So it should be like committed. It should be committed, perfectly saved into your storage. That is what durability capacity. So, and we have something called SQL basic operations. And as told that you need an SQL programming language in order to do different operation with respect to a database, like creation of a database, manipulation of a database. So, what are different manipulation operation we can do it? One is we can insert the new rows like this. Like this, I can insert the new rows. 3 MTH. I may have 122. Okay, this is what insert operations. Then I have something called delete. So if I remove complete information, then it is nothing but delete operation. Then we have something called update values. See, initially my age is 22. Now it is 23. So now age is changed. This is nothing but update operation. I'm not inserting and I'm not deleting, just modifying the existing value. That is what we call it as an update operation. So on retrieve, now I want to know what is the age of USN. Can you answer me? What is the age of USN2? What is the age of USN2? Yes? Nobody answered me. What is the age of USN2? 20,
23,
right?
sir.
20. Yes, 20. Yeah, yeah, very good. Like that, what is the age of, sorry, what is the name of BCD? Sorry, what is the name of USN2? You can say BCD. Okay. So, then you can even ask questions like, I want to know what is the age of who are all the students whose ages are in between 21 and 22 years. Then there is only one student, right? ABC. And I want to know the name of a USN1. You can easily know. I want to know what is the USN of name BCD. You can check it out. It is 2, right? So retrieve of the information, stored information, that is nothing but this one, retrieve rows that meet given criteria. Criteria means the condition. I'm asking what is the name of USN1. The condition is you want to look for only name of that USN1. I'm not doing even age. I don't bother about age. So given criteria always represent some conditions. So that all you can do it using SQL. Okay. So for retrieving the information, we have something called select statement information. Okay. So what I do is I will give you one simple glance how exactly you will write the queries in SQL programming language in order to do selection. Okay, in order to retrieve the information from the table. Okay, we have something called select keyword. Okay, and after the select, maybe it is not visible to you. I will just change to 20. Okay. Select, we have something called select, and you are going to represent column names here. What are the column names you are interested with? Name, age, or something like that. Name or names, anything. Single column also you can do it, or multiple columns also you can do it, or all the columns you want to retrieve. Suppose all the columns. Whatever the columns are there in my table, I want to know all the columns information. Then you will just use star. Okay, star. So you may have, okay, that's more than enough. If I go very deeply, you may get confused. I'll explain the basic things here. If you wish to learn DBMS, SQL and all, uh, if you are interested, you gives your name. Okay, I will take one separate class for entire DBMS things, and I will explain you. Okay, if you are interested. So next keyword you are going to use is table. From table, which table you want to retrieve the information? Maybe from single table or multiple table. Okay, and condition. You are going to specify condition here. Where condition, condition. Like select. I want to know the name of a student whose USN is what 2. So USN equals to 2 will be the condition. Suppose I want to know the student information whose ages are between 21 to 22. Means ages should be between 21 and 22. That is should be the condition. Okay. And also we have something called group by. Maybe okay, group by. Here also we are using columns. Suppose like my question is, I want to know who are all the students. Okay. So how many students are how many boy students are there and how many girl students are there. So if I want to know with respect to my student info, then I want to group the students based on gender, right? Like girl student and based on gender, boy student. I want to know. So if that is the case, I'm going to mention the column name gender here in a group by. If my question is to group the columns, then you need to do grouping in group by class. And suppose if you still I have some condition with respect to group by, and then you are going to use condition here. So the condition is I want to know how many students, boy students are there and girl students are there. That to minimum I want to know minimum 5 students, girls are there or boys are there. Then the condition is the minimum count should be 5. Then only I want to know how many girls students are there and how many boys students are there. Then you always specify conditions. So normally this type of conditions we are going to specify using some functions. So but don't bother about this having and all. It may still confuse you. If you are interested to learn, you may ask me one separate class for that. Okay, after the completion of this mobile application development, I will teach you the entire thing with respect to it. And one more thing is order by. Order by. So order by is only for the purpose of listing your in a either ascending order or a descending order. You can directly use ASC or DESC. Based on some column. Which column you want to order? Okay, you want to order the retrieved value. That is, you want to order the name in a ascending order or a descending order. See, this is how you can write a queries in a SQL using SQL. So the syntax is looks like this. In select, you want to represent what are the columns you want to retrieve, or every column you want to retrieve, mention simply star. And from there may be multiple tables are there in your database. If you wish to retrieve from multiple tables, if you retrieve from single table, just represent single table. Multiple tables means represent multiple tables. And want to provide the condition. Okay, suppose conditions are like age equals to 22, USN equals to 2, or your age is between 21 and 22, or name always starts with the yes, or name should be first character should be whatever it is. Name second character should be always B. Okay, and so city should be Bangalore. Okay, so these are all the condition you want to specify. That should be specified in where class. Suppose you want to group the column you are going to retrieve. For example, I want to know uh, what is the maximum students who lives in Bangalore. Okay, so then I want to actually group the column based on city, right? I was just my concentration is only Bangalore. Okay, suppose I want to know city wise how many students are there, then I want to group the student based on city. Okay, and I want to know is there any students available city wise, if minimum students. Okay, suppose I have a city-wise students, and my target is I want to know any cities are there that is having students at least 5 students. Then of course I need to group the students based on city-wise, and also I want to check the condition that the minimum count should be always 5. So that type of conditions we normally use to put it in having. You cannot use having without group by. Whenever you use group by, and if you want to specify the conditions based on group function, then use having class. Okay. And order by is just to order the retrieval information, whether in ascending order or descending order. Suppose you have a table information here. Okay. You may like ABC only and something like 22. Okay, 22. Okay, so I'll delete all these things so that it will come up. So now I want to know what is the name of a student whose USN is 22. Sorry, whose USN is 2. You can simply write SQL queries like this. That is, I want to know what name of a student, right? I'll just increase some font. I want to know what name of a student. So first, what you are going to do is you are going to write. See, SQL is an whenever you are writing any queries using SQL, don't bother about the case. It is case independent. It is not case dependent. Okay, whatever the case, you can write it. I want to know what only name of a student, right? Name. The column name I'm very interested in just name. Okay. From which table? From the table called student info. Student info. Right? And what is the condition? Whose USN is what? 2. Where USN equals to 2. This is how you can write a query. My simple question is, I want to retrieve the name of a student whose USN is 2, and the answer is what? BCD. Suppose I want to know any students are there between the age 21 and 22. Between the age what? 21 and 22. So then I can know, I can easily write a query. I am interested not only in name, even USN is also I'm interested, name is also I'm interested, age is also interested. Then what you have to do is you can write it like this, name and age. Suppose, you see, here I am using all the columns, right? All the columns name. So you can replace directly this with respect to star. If we want to retrieve all the columns information, you simply write star. Okay, again from student info, and the conditions changes here. Where age should be what? Age between 21 and 22. So the condition is like this. Okay. So there are something relation operations you are going to use like equal to, greater than, less than, had, addition operators, subtract operation, even Boolean operators like the true, false. Okay. Yeah, multiple different operations you can use. Even string matching operators like and also set operators like in, not in. There are numerous ways you can provide the condition. Whenever you want to provide the condition, there should be some operators like equal operators, algebraic operators, set operators, anything you can use it. Okay. This always represents true or false, right? So, any doubt in this? Any doubt in this? Looks very easy, right? Okay, these are all some simple queries. You can go on and add conditions, anything like greater than, less than, something like that. Okay, somewhere you can see these are all like as I told that you can do some string matching operation. Whenever you want to do some string matching operator, we can use like, okay, suppose assume I want to retrieve the student whose name starts with A and whatever it is, whatever the characters that may come after that. Then there is a something operators is that I want to know all the student information. Student information means USN, name and age, and the condition is name should be starts with what? Name like starts with, always character matching should be within double quotes. Within double quotes, name should be starts with what? A. The first character should be A, that to capital A. Okay. So within quotes, whatever you represent, that is case sensitive. Other things are case sensitive. First character should be A, and after that, whatever the characters may be. Okay, it is nothing but percentage. So we have two wildcards here. One is percentage, another one is underscore. So percentage represents one or many characters, zero or many characters. Underscore represent one characters. So it means now I am going to get this data ABC. Suppose the first character may be anything, and the second character must be B. Okay, and after that any character may come. Okay, then you can do search like this. That is, first character may be anything, either capital A or small a, whatever it is. Okay, and second character should be always what? So my according to my case, this information will come in my result and this information will come in my result, and second information is not going to come. This is how we can do it, pattern matching. That is what it is doing. Percentage means in center whatever it is, ERT has to become. Before that ERT any characters may come. After the ERT any characters may come. Okay, zero or any number of characters. And I have something called limit. It is what it will do. Same descending means it will do in reverse order, and the limit is I want to know only first column information. I'm just interested in, I'm not interested, even the results I may get any numbers, but I'm only interested in the first row result. So then you just you can do it using limit operations. Okay, so how we can represent in our Android. Whenever you want to write any queries, you want to apply the queries using a method called raw query. So you are going to use raw query method. Okay. So this is how we can. So we'll write one example. We'll understand. One answer we will do it. We'll understand. Suppose if you want to create some application and you want to write the query, so the query is I want to retrieve all the columns, okay, and the table is from the table word list table, and the condition is word wherever word alpha is there, I want to retrieve the information, okay, and our retrieval operation order should be only ascending, and I want to limit the columns with only first two and the last one, okay. So I'm very interested in only those three. So then how can you write the same thing in programming? So first you store the information of table information in a separate variable. Suppose I'm thinking in terms of table. Okay. So my table name is what? This one, word list. And store all the columns in a string array, because as I told that I may have a many number of columns present in my table, right? And I'm trying to retrieve all the columns from this tree. So a single variable is not enough. You need an array to store that. So that's why you are going to create a string array that is going to retrieve all the column names here, column names. Next, and in order to put the condition, you create separate condition. You can put it like this. This is for the purpose of condition. And the question mark means you suppose you are passing values through some front related matter that is using user interface. You want to provide the condition. You are not interested to provide the condition directly in your query there. Then through user interface, if you have tried to provide the condition, then you can put question mark now. This question mark actually represent what the edit text field it is going to get. You are going to pass in as an argument to that value. Okay, so you will get some values whatever it is. So in this case my condition is alpha, that's why I'm going to specify. So if I don't know, you can directly put null here initially, and you whenever the value pass through some edit text field, you can pass to this string argument. Okay, the condition may be single condition or multiple condition. That's why it is better to create an array variable rather than a single value variable. Okay, so here I don't have any group by and I don't have having, so just specify null. And I have a harder by, right? I have a harder by. So what order I'm actually looking for? Wherever the column word is there, I'm interested to retrieve in an ascending order. Okay. So with respect to column word, I'm thinking to put an order. So this is limiting order. This is how you can write a query and pass all the arguments to this particular method. That is, first you have to pass table name and columns and condition and what condition and group by thing, having thing, order by, unlimited. Directly you will pass to this query. This is how you can write the queries. So once the query you return, the output whatever the my Android is going to get is in the form of cursor object. Okay, so the retrieval information whatever it is I'm going to get, we call it as a cursor object. Cursor is nothing but, see, even if I retrieve my data, okay, it is again return me in the form of table only, right? It is going to return me in the form of table only. If I do this one also, it is going to return me in table, but it consists of only two values. Okay, other than this value, these two values are available, always available. So if I execute this particular query, these two rows will become, and again it will be available in the form of cursor. But that information actually stored where? In my local memory rather than in a database, right? It may be in cache or something like that. So it is also present in the form of table. That thing we commonly call it as a cursors. So cursors are nothing but these are the object interface that provides what? Random read-write access to the result set written by database query. So how the result set looks like? Again, it will looks like a table. Okay, and if you want to do some read-write operation of the result set, whatever written by the database query, you need some sort of pointers. Okay, some sort of pointers. You may have already pointer in C programming language, C++, right? You need some sort of pointer. So that pointers are nothing but cursors object here. Okay. So cursor is nothing but again you will get the data in the form of what? As as a table only, and you want to process that result set, then you need a cursor. Cursor represents pointer to each field of the result set. Pointer to the first it will point to first field. Once you process that, it will point to the next field like that. That is what cursor represents. We'll know how we can use that cursors and all. Okay. What we do is we'll create one application, and we are going to use create SQLite database, and using that we are going to process the data. Okay, that's what we can do. Empty activity I'm going to select, and my program is Java. I'm going to finish it. Close this. Okay. So it's open now. Fine, everything is fine here. One minute.
And so what I do is I'm going to create some simple application here. I'm going to add two fields, and that field information I'm going to store in a SQLite database. That is what my aim today. So the see so I'm going to create two fields here. One is to add what name. Another one is to add uh, 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 okay. First one is to add name. Another one is to add email. Okay, email, and we have two buttons. We'll have two buttons. One is to save the data, another one is to load the data. Okay, this is what our application looks like, and we are going to store the information in a SQLite database management system. So that is what our aim. So let us create the first the layout. Okay, so we have already hello world. So this one I'm going to give something called SQLite example. SQLite example. So if you need to modify some text things and all, you can do it. Give us a lot. Change to some good color. Okay. So make it bold and some good font size. So if you wish, it should be present exactly. Okay. So as I told it, I am going to add two plain text field here. One is to add the name. So I just don't need anything here. If you wish, you can put in here. Enter your email. So and one more text field I'm going to add here. Enter your email. What? Your or enter your college information will call. So enter your college name and college name. So to the sorry, control C delete and just putting some hint here. Enter your college. And I must have two buttons. Sorry, buttons. One is to save the data, represent as save. If you need some more size and just increase the size and make it bold. Another button is for the purpose of load the data. For the purpose of what? Loading the data. So whatever the data if you have stored, we are going to load it. And still, if you want to restore, increase the size. Okay. Now everything is fine. I have not mentioned any constraints, right? Either you just mention the constraints. Okay. So put some 32. If you wish some more, make it 72. So this is 0 and this is 0. Fine. Give the constraint with respect to this field and give some 56. This is 0 and this is 0. Okay, better you will have on the 32. So now this button is with respect to this one constraints and give some 52 something like that. So this is 0. This is 0. You give 16 and 16. Okay, it is also good. And if you wish the entire thing it has to cover, you can put it like this. Better, you just give this one. Give only 16. Here also 16. 16. Here also 16. And in the other thing. Okay. So you need enlargement for this one also. Better, then you just put it 16 here. Put it 16 here and make match constraints. Here also do the same thing. Okay, so if you need some background color, you can do it. Okay, so my front end things are finished. Just do programming of backend. What I do is, if I click that save button, so this is with respect to button. Okay, so before that, I just need an ID, right? ID. Okay, for this, I'm going to call it as ID name. For this, I'm going to call the ID as college. So if I click on the button save, click. So I'm going to call method called save data. Okay. If I click on the second button, I'm going to call the method called load data. So or enter load data. Okay. So now start do programming. One minute, I have some call. Okay, thank you. So now what we have to do is, my front end has finished. I have created two buttons with some activities. So in order to create your SQL databases, I need separate Java class. What I do is I'm going to create some separate Java class. I'm going to call it as my database. We have to represent our database thing as a separate class representation. So for that is I'm going to create some class called my database. Okay. So since I'm using SQLite in order to store my information as a database, I want to extend that class. So the class I'm going to extend for this purpose is nothing but SQLiteOpenHelper, SQLite Database OpenHelper. So this one I have to extend. So whenever I have extended this class, there are two methods in that has to be override. One is onCreate method and onUpgrade method. I'm just clicking OK. So two classes are over. Okay, whenever I want to create any database and create any tables, I have to mention all the code of creation here. Okay, in onCreate. Whenever I want to do some updation operations like version modification with respect to my database, I have to mention in the method in onUpgrade. Okay, so the two things are very important. Now, what I do is I need one more thing, that is constructor. So I even create constructor also. Create constructor. So I need some context things. Okay. So I have created constructors also. So everything is over. So in constructors, I have passing so many information. Fine. So for my database name, I'm going to create one constant. So you know how to create a constant. Constant means it should be static. Okay, and there is a final, and it's a private to my application. I'm not going to store anyway. And it's a string. I will call. There is so many calls. I'm sorry for that. Okay. So where okay. So I need some DB name, database name. For that purpose, I have created some string constant. Okay, I'm going to initialize value. So what I do, this is BSATM student. My data name is BSATM student. Okay, and I need table names also. Do the same thing. That is static. Final, date, and string variable. So this is with respect to database table, right? Normally constants try to represent in a capital letters. That is a good program. So this is student info, stu info. My table name is for stu info. Fine. Now what I need is I need some DB version because I have to pass some values into this upgrade, right? It needs some version. For that purpose, I'm going to create one more constant, that is static final private. Okay. So versions normally represent using integers, like 1, 2, something like that. So this is DB version. And the value initially I will give 1. My initial version starts with version 1. Okay. So these are all good things happens, and there are a lot of things are there. Okay. So now I have created a constructor. The first thing I'm going to pass is context, and the second thing is I'm going to pass name of an database, name of a database. So for this here, what I do is for that purpose, since it is an confusing here,
what I do is I am going to delete all the things. I just remains context. Okay. So I need context that is not available. Context is used. So simply pass any value cd. So the first thing I'm going to pass is what context cd. Okay. Second thing I'm going to pass is db name. What is my database name? That is DSATU2, right? How I have saved that db name. And the next thing I am going to pass is what null value here. I'm not going to put anything null. And the version is initially whatever the DB version is there. I'm going to pass the DB version. Okay, so all four things are passed here. Now what I have to do is I need some context for the future reference because here also I have some context to represent. So for that purpose, I'm going to create some object, context object, context for the CX. And I need even database objects also because several times I'm passing database and I need some more methods to do manipulation operation. For that purpose, I'm going to use database, SQLite database object. I'm going to call my DB. Okay, fine. So still I'm not using that thing. So now I'll come to here. As I told that I want to create an database means I need to execute in on create. For purpose of creation, okay, you need to write queries like this in SQL. That is, for all create operations, you need a create keyword and a table keyword, okay, and give some any name. For example, in my case, that is what is that DSATMs2, right? My database, sorry, table name that is to info. To info is my table, and I'm going to pass uh, two columns I'm going to create. So for that case, open the bracket, and first is name. Name in my case is name, and first thing is ID. I need some uniqueness ID, and it is an integer. Okay, integer, and I'm going to specify it as a primary key since some field should be unique enough. Okay, and I'm not going to pass any value. That's why I'm going to make it as auto equipment. So whenever I insert any values, automatically one value will be inserted. Second thing I'm going to insert is name, and it is in string. In different DBMS, we have different data types. Suppose if I am working with respect to uh, MySQL, then it is an varchar. In SQL, it is text. Okay, next thing is college. College, and it is also text. Okay, this is how you can create a table. For that, you must have a syntax always to use. Like first keyword should be create. After that, table and the name of a table, what you are going to represent, and the columns. That is what you have to pass and close the bracket and close with semicolon. That is what you can create a table. So let us do the same thing in programming now. Okay, let us come here. Okay. So for that case, what I do is I need to execute that query, right? Whenever whatever the query is there, that is an SQL form it is there, and I want to execute that query. For that case, I need an DB object. For why I'm using DB here? Because yeah, the parameter for the my database object is DB. That's why I use DB here. Then there is a query called execute SQL. Use that function and write the query inside this function. That is how you can do it. So what is the query? That is first thing is create table, right? Close it since you know already passed the table info, right? That is table name. What is that? It is stored in some variable that is db table. And again, open that bracket and so this line is completed now. First line is completed, right? This particular portion is completed. Now Still, uh, so open the bracket, and the first column I am going to pass as ID, and it is an integer. Is an integer. Then it is in primary key. I explain what is primary key, and don't want to insert myself. It is an auto increment. Whenever a new field is added, auto increment will happen. Auto increment. Okay, first variable is finished. Next, we have a comma. Next parameter I'm going to insert is name and text. Okay, you have something called not null, null, whatever it is, you can specify. And the next thing is college, and it is also text. And it's also text. Then close the bracket. Okay, semicolon. And that's all. Okay, now you have created. Wait. One minute. What is the- Now it is solved. Okay, now we pass the query. Okay, this is what it will create a table called student info with 3 columns. That is done. Now in upgrade, I'm not going to do any modification. If so my upgrade is to just drop the table. So for that also you have a db dot ex. So for dropping table, you have a syntax is drop table name. You know what is the table name. Just since it is in don't give it is what okay. I want to check if it exists. If it exists, and pass the table name. What is the table name? DB table. That's all. So here, if it is not exist, I'm going to what? I'm going to create a table that is on create, and I'm going to pass this database. Okay, this is I have done insert creation and also deletion of the table. Now I want to do some manipulation, right? For that purpose, I'm going to create some more methods. First one is with respect to insertion. For that purpose, I'm going to create public void insert data. Insert data. Insert data. So anyhow, I'm getting 2 values right through my design. One is name and another one column. So for that purpose, I'm going to pass 2 variables here. All variables are string only. String, s1, string. I'm going to call it as s2. Fine. So again, I want to execute the thing, right? Execute the information. For inserting, you have something called SQL query. For insert the new values, you have a syntax like this: insert into the table name to info to underscore info. Okay, to info, and what are the columns? Okay, what are the columns? First thing is, since ID is an increment, auto increment, it will go on increment. Okay, so first, second thing is name and college, and after that you have a keyword called values. After that, the values you have to pass. That is, all strings should be passed within double quotes. This is how you can insert the values. The same thing we are going to rewrite in Android. For that case, first thing I need is what? I need some. I want to open my database, whatever the database I have created, object created here. I want to make it as a writable, because when I have a writable choice, then only I can insert the values, right? For that purpose, first I am making an option like for my database, I get a permission of writable. Get writable database. Okay. First, make it as a writable database. Then you start execute the query. It is mydb dot exe SQL. There you write insert statement. So insert insert into, okay, what is the table name? For that case, just pass class into into class. Table name is db table plus still I have some values, some things I have to insert, right? After that, what is there? Insert into table name is over. Uh, s- then you have to open a bracket and pass two column names, right? Table. Okay, so open a bracket. Okay, so what are the two column names you have to pass? First one is stu name. This one you have to pass name, just name, right? Name. Second thing is what? College. College. Close the bracket. Okay, bracket is closed. Then one more. Next thing is values. Next thing is, so whatever the values I'm going to get it from these two variables, I'm going to insert, and that variables always pass through edit text field, right? So for that case, values. So the first thing is pass yes one. So for that case, let's yes one. So I'm going to close this. Similar like with S2 also we have to do. Okay, I must have comma. Okay. Now open second S2, close the thing. Okay. Okay. I forgot to add plus here, right? Ah, fine. So the insert statements I have written now. It will execute. Okay, insert. So in order to check whether the thing is inserted, I am just whenever if it is inserted, I am going to call some toast. First is ctx, okay, and text I am going to process data inserted. Length chart, okay, that's fine. Everything is fine. So next thing I'm going to this is over insert. So I want to do even retrieval operations also for the purpose of loading. So what I do is for that purpose I'm going to create one more method public void. So load data. Load data. So, any confusion here? Load data. Uh, display data. So for displaying, I don't need any columns, okay, simply because I am not getting any values here for display purpose. Okay, so just again, in order to display, what I have to do is for inserting, I need a writable permission. For reading, I need a readable permission. And so once you get a readable permission, then now you write reading of data. As I told that for reading, you have to write what is select statement. Select statement. This thing you have to write it, right? And the result should be passed to some cursor object. For that purpose, what we have to do is I'm going to create one cursor object. Cursor. I'm going to call it as C equals to. Now I start writing my SQL select statement. So my DB dot again X. Here I have to use raw query. See, retrieval operation, I have to use what? A method called raw query. Yeah, see. So I have to use what? The select statement should be passed to raw query that consists of two parameters. First one is the query and the second one is what? That. So if you need to pass directly with string, what you have to do is, let us create one separate string for this, for my case of query. Okay, that is string. I will call it as query. And I'm going to so what I need is, I want to retrieve all the columns. Select R from, and I have a table name for that case. Uh, Select star from okay. So class DB table class equal. This is my query. You can pass it like that. Okay. So I need what? Raw query function. So two arguments I'm going to pass. First thing is query. Second thing is no. I don't want any. Okay. Selection arguments. Suppose if you don't want to mention here, you can do it query here itself. That is select from from then pass the table name, that is DB. Like this also you can do it. There's space. So if you don't want to mention like that, you will do like this. Otherwise, if you want to use string, you can directly use like this. Both cases are true. Now I have created a cursor. The result is written in the form of, again, the result set is in the form of table. If I want to process multiple columns, means I need a string builder, because string can process only one value. I need a string builder in order to process multiple columns. So for that case, I am creating string builder. Give some name to the string builders, and this is an object I have done. Okay, string builder done. Now I want to process. Now the result set, again, it's in the form of table. I want to process one row wise, right? One row at a time. So you can process the results of the cursor one row at a time. For that case, what I'm doing is I'm getting some loop function here, and my cursor is what? C dot. There is a function to move next line. So using that move to next, what it will do is it will see whether the first line is exist or not. If the first line is exist, if the pointer will move to the first line of the result set. That's what it will do. Okay. So now I am going to read the whatever the arguments are there in the first row. I'm going to read two separate string variables. Okay. I have three arguments, right? I have three arguments. One is ID. Another one is what? Name. Another one is what? College. I just need name and college. That's all. So for that purpose, I'm going to use string s1. I'm going to read the first part of the cursor. C dot get name get thing, the first thing, okay, I'm going to get first rows information, first columns information, okay. Second column, I'm going to get string, I'm going to call it as s2, c dot get string, but this is with respect to second column. And with respect to each line, I'm doing this. Once I get that strings, since string will consist of only one value, I have two values now. So for that purpose, I'm going to append this string builder. So str dot. And now I'm going to pass both values, that is s1 space, I will have some space between each columns. Okay. If you want to display in multiple lines, you can do it. You know how to do that. See in like C++, C program. So that's all with respect to cursor processing. Once you process the cursor, I want to see whether the information is there or not in my table, right? To what? I just post the information. Post dot make text. So the first thing is context, that is CTX. Context is what? CTX. See, this is my context, right? And second thing is display message. So what is the information I am displaying here? So whatever is in my string builder, that information I am going to display here. For that purpose, str is my string builder dot toString will display the information. Okay. Next, for length long, I am going to display length long. Okay. Dot show. So I think everything is finished. Everything is finished with respect to database. That is, here I have created a database using my create statement. Here I have inserted the values using insert statement. Here I have retrieved the values using select statement. Okay, here I have deleted a table using drop statement. Okay, all the things SQL related things are finished. Now I'll come to my main class. Main class. Okay, so now first thing is, first I'm going to create two objects for my edit text. So that is edit text. I'm going to call it as ed1, ed2. I will find the ID of those edit text ed1 equals to and view by ID or dot ID back. So the name I am given is name back. For my first edit field, I have given name ed2. Same thing, find view by ID dot ID dot. So what is the second name I have given? College. Fine. So now I need even my database object also. For that purpose, I create what is the class I have created? My database, right? My database, and I'm going to give some name, my DB name, object name. Okay. Now I want to create an instance of my object, right? My DB. So how to create an instances, my database. So nothing. The context I'm going to pass. This context I'm going to pass. Close the thing. Now everything is finished. For save data, I'm going to call that insert function. Okay. I'm going to call that insert function. How to call that? The object name and the method name. What is that method? Insert data, right? Insert data. And I'm going to pass two strings. One is string s1 and string s2. String s1 is the whatever the data I'm going to get it for the edit text field 1. String 2 is whatever the data I'm going to get it for edit text 2. So how we can pass this? ed1 dot text dot toString. So the first parameter is passed. Similar like second parameter ed2 dot get text dot toString. Sorry, dot toString. Okay. So now this is over. I want to display the data. For that purpose, simply call that display function md mydb dot display data. Nothing I have to pass. So everything is finished. Okay. So what you have to do is
For creation of SQLite database, what you have to do, you have to create separate Java class, and it has to be extend what the class name called SQLiteOpenHelper. Okay, once you've done that, two create should be you have to override. One is on create and on update. In on create, you are going to write SQL create statement in order to create the table. In non upgrade, you are going to pass the versions, different versions, or any modification with respect to table, or dropping the table. That one you are going to pass it here. Okay. For creation of table, I have created two constant. One is table name, another one is database name, another one is table name. So now in create table, I have created the table. Okay, I have created a table. Okay, I have created a table with respect to this database. Okay, with respect to this database, I have created a table. So meanwhile, for insertion of operation, I want to open my database in a writable permission. Now to read my database, I have to open my table in a readable permission. For inserting values, you have to insert SQL statement you have to execute. For reading information, you have to execute a raw query method that consists of two parameters. One is select statement, another one is null. Okay, fine. So now what you have to do is we will run the application and we'll see what is the output. Okay, Ladle invocation finished. We have to wait. The system has to be started. Okay, my application is open. So what I do initially, I don't have any data. Simply, I just executed load data. So nothing has displayed since I don't have any data. So first, I'm going to hack to here. So I'm going to save the data. So some problems is coming. We'll see. I have an error now. I have an error. So that's why it's not working. We'll check what error it is. So there is a problem with insert statement. That is insert into. I don't have a space given. Okay. Let us go and modify that. Insert my database. Insert into. So okay, some space here. Fine. Student name info. So info is stable. Okay, fine. Parameter is perfect. Name college. Fine. Here also it is name and college, right? Create name, college, fine. Okay. The values, it is getting perfectly APC and BSATF. No error in that. Fine. So we'll restart my application. Start. So going to enter Mozilla. First, I'm going to share the information. Again, I have an error. So where I'm getting this error, what is the error? On the perform. So null object reference. Right. This is exactly an exception error. It is not the on click is working perfectly. Yes. We want get text. We need to get text. Fine. Okay. So some problems are happening in device itself. Which one minute. So I'm facing some problem in my emulator. Problem with my emulator. Can I have everything is fine? So there is no problem with select. There is no problem in insert also. So it is not launching my application. Application is not installing. So problem with my emulator. So it's not coming on with this emulator.
Everything is fine. I don't find any errors here. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Parameter is passing perfectly. This is passing perfectly. This one is perfect. A, B, C. So load. Okay, fine. Display data function. So insert is happening finally. No problem. Display data. So I got an readable database, no problem. And have created cursor, no problem. Okay. So it's a raw query and select star from base is there, table name is there, no problem. Field name here, no problem. No, I don't have a selection arguments, so that's fine. No problem here. And string builder not to get multiple columns. Cursor, go to next. Fine. So yes, fine. See the question. Column is one, column is two. I'm appending both the things. So I have some space between these. And if I wish to handle them, I have this. Fine. What should we do? Now pass the context perfectly. So it's my database only.
So there is some error. Understand what is this? There is some context error. It's an error with respect to context. What I have used here, CTX only. Okay, so the problem is with respect to context. CTX. Okay, why I'm getting this error? I have not created an as a skip context, right? Now it will be perfect. Wait, we will. So in the constructor, I'm not instead create this constructor. That's why I'm getting error. Okay, I'll rerun this. Okay, fine. I'm going to schedule. Yeah, give the information. Now you got an uh, source that is saved. Okay, so if you load the data, you'll get the data one by one. Okay. Uh, okay, this is Manjuna DSATM. Two times I am saved. Okay, so you can save any information. Uh, Go on, save any information. It will go on display. So initially I have saved some more information. That's why it's showing all the information here. You can check it out. So these are the information I am adding here. So if you click that, inserted successfully. So data is inserting successfully. If you load that, so it's go on showing all the columns present in my data. See, initially I have added A and B, Manjuna, DSATM, and B and DSATM. All the information it is going to show. Whatever these are all the data, it is present in my database. So it's showing one by one. So through cursor, I'm processing each data and I'm showing this information. So that's what with respect to storing information using SQLite databases. If you have any so any other things you want to learn about, you just message me. Okay. So 1 minute, I'll take that. Okay. Fine. Thank you all. Then you can do the class. Thank you all. So any doubts if you have, you can ask me questions. With today's class.